The United States proposes UN draft resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. United Nations official accuses Israel of internationally starving Palestinians in Gaza. U.S. warship intercepts missiles and drone attacks launched by the Houthis in the Red Sea. Good evening. Welcome to YemenToday News. I am Abir Ali. The United States has submitted an amended draft resolution to the UN Security Council calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza Strip after months of the wrangling. On behalf of the United States, Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield has voted before three prior Security Council resolutions calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. This report has more. The death toll in Gaza Strip has risen to 30,717, the majority of whom are children and women, since the 7th of last October. The number of wounded has risen to 72,156 since the start of the aggression, while thousands of victims are still under the rubble. The Palestinian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said more than 500,000 citizens living in the northern Gaza Strip are still subjected to the worst forms of genocide. It explained in a statement that citizens in the northern Gaza Strip are subjected to death by bombing and famine imposed on by the occupation forces in an attempt to push them to migrate towards the center and south of Gaza Strip. More on this is in the following report.
Children have begun starving to death in Gaza, where the United Nations has warned a famine is almost inevitable. At least 15 children have died from starvation and dehydration in a single hospital, according to the Health Ministry in the Palestinian resistance-run territory. Over the weekend, World Health Organization workers were able to visit hospitals in northern Gaza for the first time since October. It was stated that the workers found severe levels of malnutrition, children dying of starvation, serious shortages of fuel, food and medicine supplies, and hospital buildings destroyed. Across Gaza, 90% of children aged from 6 to 23 months and pregnant and breastfeeding women face severe food poverty, according to a report released 2 weeks ago by the Global Nutrition Cluster, a network of nutrition NGOs led by UNICEF. At least 90% of children under 5 were affected by one or more infectious diseases. Aid organizations working on the ground blame Israel, which is waging a war against the Palestinian resistance in the wake of the October 7th attacks, for preventing enough food trucks from entering Gaza. The International Rescue Committee stated that as Israel is the occupying power in Gaza, it has the responsibility to ensure that the occupied population receives food and medical supplies. Intentionally using starvation of civilians as a method of warfare by depriving them of objects indispensable to their survival, including willfully impeding relief supplies, is a war crime. At the start of the conflict, high-ranking Israeli officials, such as Defense Minister, openly called for a complete siege to deprive Palestinians of food, fuel, and water. The UN Food Agency said on Tuesday its aid convoy was turned away by Israeli forces at a checkpoint in northern Gaza. And last week, Israeli forces opened fire on Palestinians scrambling for food aid in a chaotic situation that killed more than 100 people.
The official spokesman for the Palestinian presidency, Nabil Abu Rudaina, said the approval of the Israeli occupation authorities to build 3,500 settlement units in East Jerusalem represents a clear attempt to drag the region into the comprehensive explosion. He added that settlement projects are condemned and rejected and will not bring security to anyone, and the international community has confirmed that all settlements are illegal in all occupied Palestinian territories.
شيء مرعب كان بالأول. طلعنا من الدار رحنا على المدارس، قعدنا حوالي فيها أسبوع. رموا المناشير قالوا اتجهوا إلى الجنوب. طلعنا قاعدين احنا هنا في خيم، وفروا لنا حنفيات، صرنا نروح نعبي كل يوم، نعبي القلن كل أسبوعين 3 لما نتحمم. أنا بعاني من مرض اسمه روماتويد مفاجئ. في أي لحظة رجلي بتصير توجعني. أخوي مصطفى عمره 7 سنين، هو بيعاني من مرض السرطان. علاجي أنا وأنا في غزة كنت بأخده، بس الحين ما باخدوش. أخويا بياخد الدواء. ما كانتش الخيمة تبعتنا زي هيك، حطينا بس شراشف بالأول، بعد هيك مطرت الدنيا. الليل اللي سيلت علينا رحنا شاردنا عند جارنا هنا، كانت تمقت علينا في الليل. ضلينا قاعدين عنده لما شقشقت الصبح، بعد هيك طلعنا نظبط الخيمة.
يلا انت اللي
اشتقت انه نرجع على دارنا ونروح نلعب ونرجع لقرايتنا. نفسي الحرب تخلص، نفسي كل شيء ترجع لأمورها، نلعب في المنتزه مثلا، نرجع. اشتقنا يا شيخ، اشتقنا.
The U.S. ambassador to Yemen, Stephen Wagner, said illegal attacks carried out by the Houthi militia have jeopardized everything positive that has been achieved for the sake of peace. While the American ambassador described the Houthi militia attacks as terrorist, he renewed his country's support for the Yemeni government to restore security, stability, and sustainable development. The United Nations announced that it has sent a team of environmental experts to conduct an assessment of the effects resulting from the sinking of the Ruby Mar ship in the Red Sea. The spokesman for the Secretary General of the United Nations said, Stephanie Dujarric, said that Special Envoy Hans Grundberg indicated that 5 experts from United Nations Environment Program will travel to Yemen within the next 48 hours. The British Maritime Trade Operations Authority reported Wednesday that it had received a report of the detention of commercial ship by a group identity itself as the Yemeni Navy. In a statement, authority explained that the detention process lasted for approximately half an hour without mentioning further details about the path taken by commercial ship. The Houthis tried to target a U.S. ship, and for defense, the ship shot down the missile and drones which was launched towards it. More on this is in the following report.
A U.S. destroyer shot down drones and missiles launched by Houthi rebels toward it in the Red Sea, as the Indian Navy released images of it fighting a fire aboard a container ship earlier targeted by the Houthis. The Houthi attack involved bomb-carrying drones and 1 anti-ship ballistic missile, as the U.S. military's Central Command said. The U.S. later launched an airstrike destroying 3 anti-ship missiles and 3 bomb-carrying drone boats, as the Central Command said. Since November, the rebels have repeatedly targeted ships in the Red Sea and surrounding waters. Those vessels have included at least 1 with cargo bound for Iran and an 8th ship later bound for Houthi-controlled territory. Despite more than a month and a half of U.S.-led airstrikes, Houthi rebels have remained capable of launching significant attacks. They include the attack last month on a cargo ship carrying fertilizer, the Ruby Mar, which sank after drifting for several days, and the downing of an American drone worth tens of millions of dollars. The Houthis have been hailing ships over the radio in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden as well since launching their attacks. The British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Centre reported that a new round of similar radio messages went out to a ship and urged crews to report any suspicious activity. Meanwhile, the Indian Navy released a video of its sailors who had been targeted by the Houthis in the Gulf of Aden. Smoke poured out of 1 container aboard the vessel, which also showed scorch marks from the impact of a Houthi missile. The missile caused a small fire that has been extinguished while no crew were injured.
The Houthi militia announced the death of 7 of its members holding various military ranks during the past 2 days. The announcement comes in conjunction with violent battles taking place on the fronts of the governorates of Marib, Shabwa, and the western coast, in addition to the American bombing of sites belonging to the Houthi militia. Coming up in the news. Taekwondo athletes in Hadramaut say government should invest more in the infrastructure of the game.
Stands out for its richness, complexity, and distinctiveness. Coffee cuppers seem to breathe through their very souls with every sip. They appreciate the journey of the seed, dating back to when it was just an idea in the farmer's mind, through to its journey into their cup. There are various forms of preparation, followed with almost ritualistic precision. Yemeni coffee, an endless story of discovery.
Welcome back. Informed sources confirmed the leaders of the Houthi terrorist militia with the aim of completing its control over the mosque of Ab city. The sources said that Houthi leaders from Sada and Sana'a came in the past few days to Ab governorate to meet with the militia supervisors. The Houthi leaders directed their supervisors in the governorate to control the main mosque in the governorate. The city of Marib recently witnessed repeated collapses of sewage drains in the main and secondary streets, which led to material and human losses for citizens and revealed great corruption and manipulation. The city of Marib lacks modern sanitation project as citizens rely on digging cisterns, which has caused water overflow.
In the absence of a sewage network that can sustain the city's dense urban population, Ma'rib's sanitation infrastructure threatens a serious health risk to civilians. With the city's rapid expansion, the existing sewage network has begun to crumble, with foul odors and the stench of sewage water permeating its alleys.
We suffer greatly from poor sewage networks. Local authorities must do more to bring an end to this phenomenon. I and other merchants and store owners often have to shut down business to prevent the transfer of outside germs and bacteria.
Disease transmission has seen a surge over the past years, with deadly epidemics spreading among citizens due to poor urban planning. In addition, the indiscriminate drilling of wells has compromised the integrity of the city's sewage network.
Diseases have spread at frightening rates due to poor sewage. All we ask for are sanitary streets and proper hygiene services.
These hazardous and uncivilized manifestations have wreaked havoc on public life in Ma'rib city. More initiatives must be implemented to counter the increase in sewage water, preserve a healthy environment, and prevent the proliferation of communicable diseases.
A recent UN report expected that the prices of food commodities and fuel would rise during the next 3 months throughout Yemen. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization said in a report for January that prices of basic food commodities and fuel are expected to rise seasonally from March to May in response to increased demand during the holy month of Ramadan and Eid and due to the unexpected effects of the ongoing escalation in the Red Sea. A recent UN report revealed that about a third of internally displaced people in Yemen still lack adequate and sustainable shelter this year. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that 1.4 million displaced people from among the most vulnerable groups in the country will be in urgent need of sustainable shelter services during the current year. The number of people in need of shelter services represent 31% of the total number of displaced people, amounting to about 4.5 million displaced people. The World Bank revealed a recent report that value of World Bank Group's operations in Yemen has nearly tripled since 2017. The report reviewed by YemenToday confirmed that the number of World Bank projects in Yemen has more than doubled, from 5 to 11 projects with a value of $2.4 billion. The Yemeni government signed with its Jordanian counterpart a 3-year cooperation program in the field of higher education. The program included an agreement for the two sides to exchange students, in addition to encouraging the exchange of training courses for leaders and cadres of the ministries of higher education in the two countries. In Sayona, Taekwondo is one of the most well-known sports and is practiced by people of all ages. This report has more details.
Taekwondo is a very popular sport in the city of Sayoun and is practiced by various age groups. However, the sport faces many challenges, such as refereeing the match.
We ask the authorities to provide us with a VR, which is an electronic monitor.
The passion of many for this sport contribute to the establishment of local championships, limited to those held between secondary and primary schools.
The aim of this championship is to discover new talents and to support them. The championship was incredible. The opponents are well trained and professional. We hope we can participate in future competitions.
Taekwondo youth aspire to represent their country in international competitions, but this requires providing more support and facilities.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. The United States proposes UN draft resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. United Nations official accuses Israel of internally starving Palestinians in Gaza. U.S. warship intercepts missile and drones attack launched by the Houthis in the Red Sea. This is the end of the news. Thank you for streaming with us. It was Abir Ali.